moved down. A detailed 1977 production report prepared for the De Beers directors referred repeatedly to the current policy of overmining in both grade and stone size. It states that because of it, smaller diamonds were even being ignored. Years before, the company founder, the late Sir Ernest Oppenheimer, had condemned overmining in strong terms. Unless you deliberately mislead your shareholders, there is only one method of working Southwest Africa. That is to see what diamonds you have got and work the average grade.
The company was concerned about the future of this country, and they were interested in maximizing their profits in the early years in the event that they wouldn't be able to secure such a high profit margin in later years, probably in an independent situation.
So are you saying that they decided to take the cream before there was an independent government that could renegotiate these agreements?
Yes, I would say that, yes.
Does this question of overmining worry you?
Very much so. It worries me as a worker because I won't have any job if the mine closes down. It worries me as a Namibian because once we get independent, we'll definitely have no profit for the country. And I believe diamonds generate a lot of revenue for the state in terms of taxes and what have you.
Gordon Brown has worked out the value of the diamonds that were whisked out of Namibia ahead of independence.
A calculation that I did showed a figure of £1 billion had been brought into the era where overmining was at its maximum, i.e. that is in the decade of the 70s. Now this £1 billion, if there had been no overmining, would have been available to future profitability.
Here in Windhoek, we asked De Beers for an interview, but the company declined and notified the South African police of our interest in the diamond trade. De Beers' policy means that the mine will begin to close in 1992, 13 years early. The effect on Namibia will be dramatic. The people have lost their equivalent to Britain's North Sea oil, a precious resource that might have given them a secure future. De Beers' policies might have been different if the diamond industry had been regulated by an independent diamond board. But in a country without an independent government, the board was a watchdog without bark or bite. No independent checks were made on De Beers' sorting or valuation of diamonds. The company did it themselves. For years, the board was almost entirely staffed and run by De Beers' employees. The current secretary of the Diamond Board, Stanley Jackson, is also secretary of the De Beers company CDM. The board shares CDM's offices in the state capital, Windhoek.
If one phones the Diamond Board, which is a statutory body, the phone is answered by CDM good morning. The documents of the Diamond Board are kept in the offices of CDM.
De Beers' control of Namibia's diamonds even extends overseas. The company handles all sales through its powerful worldwide diamond cartel, with head offices here in London. Namibia has no effective means of checking the prices reported by De Beers for selling the country's gemstones on the international market. Judge Tyrion's investigators started asking questions about selling prices, but De Beers refused to give evidence in court, and the questions remain unanswered.
De Beers has said that the Tyrion Commission was biased and unfair because they were not called to give evidence. What do you say to that?
Well, that is an outright lie. They're playing around with words there. They were sitting in at the commission. They had every opportunity of giving evidence, and they had every opportunity of cross-examining any of the witnesses.
Did the company produce any documentation in court?
Yes, the company CDM did produce a memorandum, which is their normal PRO, fending off of any criticism, which the judge rejected, I might say, with contempt.
What did he say?
Well, he leafed through the memorandum and said that it was an insult to the lowliest intelligence, and asked CDM to please step into the witness box so that the evidence could be tested.
And did they get into the box?
Certainly not. I believe that if The diamond industry in this country had been properly controlled from the 1920s. In excess of 20 billion rand more would have been received out of our industry. There has been absolutely no control.
Instead of paying for Namibia's development, the country's diamonds went to fund the growth of the Oppenheimer empire abroad. Today, Harry Oppenheimer dominates Anglo-American, the world's biggest mining group, controlling half South Africa's industrial wealth and marketing diamonds for Russia, South Africa and Botswana.
Perhaps I might say how very pleased we are on the De Beers side that this agreement has now been signed.
It's in the neighbouring country of Botswana that the full extent of Namibia's loss can best be measured. Here, an independent government came to power in 1966, and the country's diamond resources have been managed in a different way. In these mines, the government knows what's going on. It's an equal partner with a mining company in owning and managing the mines. A government department independently values the diamonds and their supervision of the country's assets from the mine to the marketplace. Botswana's partner, De Beers.
Botswana was particularly fortunate to discover diamonds fairly late in the day. They were discovered on the eve of independence. So they were able to get the best possible deal on their diamonds. They got a very good basic tax regime and very strong checks on the marketing of the diamonds. This ensured that they were able to maximize the revenue from the diamonds. And the result has been an almost Saudi Arabian situation where they've had huge revenues from the diamonds, which they've been able to plow into education, hospitals, roads, etc.
Judge Tyrion recommended a similar system for Namibia, with independent valuation of diamonds before they leave the country. A year after publication of his report, little has changed, and Gordon Brown has evidence that the overmining continues.
If one looks at De Beers' annual reports, it's fairly obvious that overmining has been continued for the past few years, but greatly reduced.
So even after the Tyrion inquiry, they still appear not to be abiding by best mining practice.
That's quite correct, yeah.
Bernt Carlsson, the man responsible for Namibia under international law. We asked him about Namibia's diamonds.
The corporation has been trying to skim the cream. That means they have gone for the large diamonds at the expense of the steady pace. In this way, they really shorten the lifespan of the mines. One would expect from a worldwide corporation like De Beers and Anglo-American that they would behave with an element of a social and political responsibility. But the behavior in the specific case of Namibia has been one of profit maximization, regardless of its social, economic, political and even legal responsibilities.
13 years ago, the United Nations passed a law to protect Namibia's wealth. Mining companies need UN permission to mine, export or sell the country's natural resources. Companies like De Beers have ignored the law, but now attitudes at the UN are beginning to harden.
The United Nations this year, in July this year, started legal action against one such company, the Dutch company called Urenco, which deals with imports of uranium.
Will you be taking action against other companies such as De Beers?
All companies carrying out activities in Namibia which have not been authorized by the Council are being studied at present.
For De Beers, the financial prospects are sparkling. Demand for diamonds is climbing. Next month, the company is raising the world price for gem diamonds. For Namibia, after 70 years, the promise of independence remains unfulfilled. And with its wealth drained away, the future is bleak.
The Namibian economy is extremely sick. The government consumes 75% of the gross domestic product to run the country. The country today is the second most indebted nation on the African continent, from a debt-free nation 7 years ago. The situation in Namibia could become far more serious than in Angola and Mozambique. We're a far drier country. We have